Welcome back to Book Bingers, the podcast where two best friends talk about book boyfriends, theories, wingspans, and today we are deep diving. We are almost all the way through our reread of Fourth Wing on our countdown to Onyx Storm.
Oh man.
Woo, we are in it. We are 65% of the way in this bad boy. We are on chapters 26 to 30.
26 to 30.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
We are doing it.
Yeah.
We are in it. Hopefully you've been following along. If not, I don't know if this is the episode to jump in on. Maybe you want to.
Maybe go back.
I would say at least have read Fourth Wing one time through. So, because we're going to spoil some shit coming up.
Yes.
Okay, so where we had just left off with Violet stealing the map from her mother.
And getting that smirk out of Zayden.
Oh yeah, she won. She doesn't even care. We never even actually find out who. No, we do. They won.
We
they
assume
won the whole thing.
they were the ones.
Yeah, because they get to go on the trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, to go see.
They
Yeah,
win.
yeah. They win. And that's where we're basically gonna pick up. So anything to say before we just dive right in, or do you want to just go for it?
Can I tell you that just when diving into these chapters, I kind of forget that all the stuff with Professor Carr happens in Iron Flame. In my brain, I was like, "Oh, that's no."
Nope, it sure is later. And to be fully transparent, I don't know how much I remember of Iron Flame.
I know.
It's a lot. It's going to be real interesting to read.
If you think this
book
is chaotic,
wait
for Iron
especially
Flame.
because we're going to have to go through more chapters at a time to make our way through it. It's going to be the most hot mess express
Yeah,
we've
because
ever
she's
seen.
about twice as big as this one. So
yes.
good luck to us.
And like
you.
through the holidays, what are we doing?
Yeah, we're so smart.
It's
we're
fine.
the smartest.
It's fine. It's fine. It's not like we have the holidays, your birthday and my birthday. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We've got this. We've got this. Okay. Let's just jump in.
Yeah.
All right. We're starting off with 26.
Yeah. So they are they're flying,
Mm-hmm.
and we find out where Rhiannon lives.
We do.
Yeah. She says her village is less than an hour away.
Yeah, and
On
she's
foot.
also like picking up on something's up with Violet.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, what aren't you telling me?
Correct.
Violet's like, I'll let you know.
Yeah. So their prize for winning
Yeah,
the map thing,
their prize, the real prize,
was they get to go for a week to one of the outposts.
Yeah.
And so when they get there, Rhiannon finds out, like, this is only an hour from my house.
like so close.
And Violet's basically like,
We got this.
I
We're gonna
got
do
you.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna go.
We don't know how,
but we're gonna make it happen.
There's no way you're gonna be this close to your niece or nephew. She doesn't even know yet.
Correct.
But we're gonna go see him. Mark my words.
Mm-hmm.
But who shall she see? Almost right when she gets there. Mira. And I like actually tear up at this like interaction because this is where Violet finally is like everything comes
they
rushing
haven't
back
seen
to
each
her
other since she was on the parapet.
Yes, everything comes rushing back to her and she just like breaks down, and it's the most like intense sisterly moment.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, if any way that Mira ends up like I one of two things will happen. One, if she ends up somehow not being good,
Yeah.
I'll die. But even worse, I think she is good, and I think she's gonna end up dying, and I will be devastated. I think she's gonna protect Violet at all costs. I love this sisterly bond.
Yeah, and you can like totally see like that moment cinematically of like when they hug and everything going through Violet's mind of literally she's a completely different person.
Through hell and back. Yeah.
She's a completely different person now.
Yeah.
And
like I really truly in my gut think that Brennan's gonna be the bad guy. And what if Mira ends up having to like kill her brother to protect her sister? I don't know. I've got all these feelings. Either way, right now I'm in love with Mira.
Yeah.
She's the sister I wish I had. And here we're at. Here we're at. So, okay. I just kind of jumped right to that because there was really nothing of interest.
Yeah, she
that
has
for
like
me.
a moment when she's talking to Dane, and she could like kind of give him pleasantries, and she decides to just be like, I was just remembering the guy that I used to climb trees with, that's all.
Can you imagine though?
And she's just like, you're not that guy.
You're not that guy. And I
She's done. She's so done with him, and
she's so done.
As a reader, I'm like, good.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about time.
Yeah, for freaking real. Okay, so we jump straight to like Rhiannon and Violet. Like, okay, we've been here 2 days,
and they're like, let's go. Mira's out on patrol.
Mira's
so let's
finally
go.
on. Watchdog is gone. Just kidding. She knew exactly what you're up to.
JK,
you cannot
right
pull something over your big sister.
No.
She knows you. She
Absolutely.
knows your moves. But she's like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
And then, for one, another reason I love Mira, she's willing to break rules for her sister. We've seen this multiple times now. But I also love that they have kind of a touching moment. Like, have you ever seen a family this happy? Because that certainly wasn't our family.
Us.
Wow, what must this be like?
I know.
I really do hope that we see more of Rhiannon's family.
I do too.
Moving forward.
I feel like we wouldn't just get introduced to them for them not to.
You don't introduce someone's family, a side
in their
character's
house,
family,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, for it not to come back.
They also mentioned the new scar that Mira has from a griffin, and I kind of wonder, like, what is the actual story there? You know, like, what really happened?
Right. Absolutely.
Because
for sure,
what we know is we really know nothing about what's going on outside the borders.
We sure do not. We also hear about the village of Cranston being, 7 months ago, things came out of nowhere in the middle of the village raid. We're hearing the wards went down, and Mira's talking about how usually her signet gives her a little bit of immunity from the enemy wielders and all of that stuff. And Violet's like, wait, what? We didn't hear anything about this. And she says straight up, I think there's more going on around the borders.
Yeah.
That trust she has in Mira, because you can't just say that to someone that far above you.
Correct.
And Mira's like, well, duh. What do you think they tell you everything?
You're a first year.
Yeah, and so we're reading Violet's POV, so I think she now is starting to doubt herself a little bit, but her gut is telling her all the right things.
She's just, her brain can't process all the information she's getting right now.
And in the same conversation, Mira's like, hey, I have this book.
Yeah.
You have this book back?
Yeah.
This very important book.
We found out that she saved the Fables book.
Yes. And is it just me, or is this book telling us the entire story of this entire series?
Absolutely.
Like, boom. I cannot help but compare it to Harry Potter. It's giving
the three brothers,
all the same
Absolutely.
vibes. All the same vibes.
And Mira also mentions that she says, they're just in the middle of the conversation, she said, like, I swore I saw a riot of dragons across the border during this attack. And part of me is like,
because you did. Because you did, Mira.
You know.
Who gaslit you?
Correct.
But of course you would never think it could possibly be anything else, because you don't believe in these fairy tales, if you will. Which is wild. Okay.
Yeah, and in the Fable book, it says, like, Mira's like joking, right? And she's like, the gallant riders took out the army of Wyvern and the venom who sucked the land dry of magic. So at this point, it's like, do we think Mira knows about the venom and she's just trying to play up that it's all a bedtime story because she doesn't want Violet to, like, really be scared? You know what I mean? Because in the next paragraph, she says, I'll give it to you at the outpost. I know they're just stories, but I never used to get why the villains would choose to corrupt their souls and become venom. And now... And then Violet says, now you empathize with the villain? And she says, no, but we have the kind of power people would kill for, Violet. Just makes me glad our dragons are so discerning and our wards keep the Griffin Riders at bay. Who the hell knows what kind of people those furry creatures chose?
For real.
So it's like, she has to know. I feel like anyone who is outside of Bisgayeth, who is working on the board, like, they have to know.
She has to know something, or at
that
least
there's something that's going on. Correct.
Something. Let's not forget, she is her mother's daughter.
Yeah.
Like, she's not dumb.
Correct.
And she's also out there fighting these battles, seeing
and
things.
She's on the edge because her power is to extend the ward. So
do you think that she possibly knows and she's trying to
suss out,
like, but also give Violet maybe a little bit of, hey, heads up. I don't know for
keep
sure.
Your eyes open,
but
yeah. And also see, like, what side is Violet gonna fall on? You
But
know what I
also
mean?
maybe Mira might truly think Xaden and could be on the bad side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, hey, this guy you're attached to forever now, maybe keep your eyes
Yeah.
open. Who knows? But I do think Mira knows more than we know that she knows,
Absolutely.
if you will.
And then I love how this chapter ends
Yeah.
when they're asking about like how long the dragons can be separated, and then we just have Xaden step out of the shadows. Turns out about 3 days is their max.
Turns out here I am.
Actually.
And we won't go into it because we did an entire different episode on
But we
the
know.
bonus chapter.
Yeah.
But we know they can't go longer than 3 days.
They can. It's actually Xaden.
It's actually safe. And this is proven in Iron Flame because
Yeah.
they're forced to go longer
Yeah.
than 3 days. But anyways, that's another whole world when we
It
get to
sure
Iron
is.
Flame. Okay, so now we're in a whole new chapter and we're about to get into like, ooh, I love all of this stuff. Nothing makes me happier than, okay, so like Dane's just pissed. Dane's pissed that Dane's here.
He's so mad.
Why are you here? Why are you
And
here?
So they start talking about, different possible scenarios
Yeah.
of, what would you, we're thrust into another situation of
A little battle brief happening here.
something happens, how are you going to use the powers that you have around you?
Yeah.
And who's going to be the leader in
Yeah.
Dan's Lane?
Me.
Obviously me.
Obviously.
And everyone's like, well, your wing leader's here.
Yeah. And he's like, for the sake of,
Just
you guys go ahead, pretend I'm
You
not here.
do your
Use
thing.
me however you see fit.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead and take the lead, Dane.
And at one point, oh my god, it's just so funny to me. At one point, Mira asks like, what third years have been like called out,
Yeah.
and no one knew that they like get called out
Yeah.
regularly.
Not even Dane.
And not even Dane. And he goes, that's not correct. We're never called into service until after
They're
graduation.
like, okay.
And Xaden literally, it's like Xaden presses his lips in a tight line and nods, giving him a sarcastic thumbs up. And I just like, I love it.
I love it.
So much.
I love a snarky Xaden.
Oh.
So much. I wonder how much they hated each other last year or if this is a new hate, Because
I have to guess they didn't like each other, but
I have to
Violet
guess
just
Dane hates all of them.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
But Violet being involved just
Yeah.
really ramps things up.
Oh, absolutely. This scene really brings it to the forefront. So we're like going through all of this. Before I get to it, do you have anything before I get to like the moment?
No. I think
Okay.
it's the greatest part of this
The
chapter.
moment that changes everything in the story. And I can't believe it happens this late in the book.
I know.
67%
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
before we get the first mind speak.
In the first sentence is, you haven't even seen me start to be a dick. Like,
No.
that's the line.
I love it so freaking much. Can you imagine having that happen to you though? Because her head just whips towards him. Like, did that just happen? Like, did that just happen? And then they just start having this conversation. Well, he starts having a conversation. Because she can't even respond yet.
No.
Oh, God.
She's responding out loud. And, like, if anyone is actually watching, which is probably just Liam at this point.
Right.
Because Liam knows that
But
this
he
is
starts
happening.
getting so funny and flirty straight out the
Yes.
gate. Like, you're staring, it's gonna get awkward. Like, just like amazingly. Like,
The banter goes, like, to level,
from like, boom,
15.
boom. Like, oh my, Xaden, what have you been holding back?
Yeah.
Because, wow. So he also says, she said, like, Dane's like, 3 days? You couldn't make it 3 days? And she says, it has nothing to do with him. It's up to Taryn and Seagal. And he says, in her mind, you never considered that it was you I couldn't stay away from. Imagine you're having this, like, out loud conversation and he says that in your brain.
And the thing
Swoon.
is, like, now that
Swoon.
we, in retrospect, you're like, he's not lying to her.
He's not, and we know this from the bonus chapter.
Yeah.
But he's, like, not lying to her. He's being so for real. It's like, actual swoon.
Oh,
Like,
my
oh
God.
my God.
And she's like, no, he does. In her brain, like, no way.
No way. They've only had one kiss at this point.
I know. Which is crazy.
What? Xaden? Well, you're giving a girl mixed signals, okay? Like, come on.
And then, so then they're starting to go around about, what's everyone's signets? What would we do?
Mhm.
And Quinn asks, like, what's your signet, Atos? And he goes, above your pay grade.
Yes, this is such a big moment.
And Violet's going, is the quadrant really making Dane keep his memory reading secret? Had him reaching for my head the day Amber burned been loss of control?
Mhm.
How had he gotten this far without telling anyone what his signet is?
But yet he told her day
one.
She had barely stepped off the parapet, and he's like, oh, let me tell you about my signet. Like, what? No one knows? Not even, well, I mean, Zayden obviously knows,
Yeah.
but like, not because Dane told it. Like, nobody knows.
No one knows?
None of your friends know? No one knows? Okay. How are we supposed to be on a team with you and fight with you if we don't know your power?
I think that's wild.
Why?
You're just supposed to trust.
So
like
clearly,
it's
Dane is sworn to some kind of secrecy to not tell anybody because no one.
And
they
we
don't
really
want
get there are like multiple lines in probably I think next week's episode that we really get a better view of, more confirmation of like Dane is a puppet basically right now. Like, he's absolutely
yes.
As long as he's a soldier that stays in line.
Correct. But then we get to see Zayden use his power. And even Dane
the room
is like
in shadows.
Whoa. So Dane also isn't getting given all the info either.
Yeah.
He didn't know the extent of Zayden's power.
It's like, does he not know, or does he not want to believe that he is that powerful? You know what I mean?
I mean, I get it, but Dane's like, you can do that, and begrudgingly is like looking at Zayden, and he's like, are you seriously asking? Zane's like, are you being so for real? Like, of course I can do that, and then he does it, but in her mind, he's like, relax, it's just me. And a ghost of a touch skims her cheek. Her cheek.
I know. It goes next level. Like that's such a big step in their relationship.
Yes, and then she says what Segal said about signets. It reflects who you are at the core of your being.
And I just feel like that is such an important line, especially probably for multiple people moving forward.
She says it makes sense. Mira's protective. Dane has to know everything. Zayden has secrets.
But and I don't think that's like right now in this moment.
No,
that's
all
what she thinks.
Yeah.
And as the layers get unpeeled from Zayden, but then it starts to.
But like at your core, you're not
at secret. Violet's core. What is she?
Correct. I don't know if we even know. She doesn't even know.
Right.
She still is like, what am I doing here?
Correct.
How did this happen to me?
And so I think that whole time, and especially with her signet manifesting, she's like really caught on to this like core of her being, like what her signet means as what kind of a person she is.
Yeah.
And I think that is still something that really we're not going to get a full answer on.
I agree.
Maybe until the end.
No, I fully agree. And meanwhile, it's dark and he's still flirting with her. He's like, don't get any ideas there in the dark. She's like, dude, Taryn, get him out of my head. And he says, you'll get used to it. Like, how long have Taryn and Zayden been able to speak to each other?
Probably as soon as he was bonded with Segal.
Yeah, does he just get to talk to his mated dragons? So, like, if Zayden weren't in the picture and Segal hadn't had a rider yet, could Violet have been able to talk to her? Like, this is wild to me.
Maybe.
This is wild to me. So, like, Taryn's known Zayden for at least 3 years now. But then, did he also know Zayden's grandparents? Right? Had to have.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how long they've been mated, but I'm just going to assume a very, very, very long time.
Yeah. I don't think it's a new.
They're the most powerful mated dragons ever.
That's the thing. Like, you start going back of like who were Taryn's previous riders, who were Segal's previous riders. How has the relationship between those 4 beings?
I need just a whole dragon
history lesson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So now Mira's pissed.
And she takes the 3 of them outside.
Yeah. And I just can so see this scene.
She's going in like big sister mom mode of like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yes. Like, what is wrong
Get your
with you?
shit together.
She's like, Dane, do you actually want to climb this ladder? Because you're not being professional. What are you doing? What are you?
Like, I don't know what bug has crawled up your ass.
I know.
But have you forgotten you're a squad leader?
I love
And
it.
she calls he calls her Mira, and she's like, Lieutenant.
Yes! Clap back, Mira. Clap back.
Okay. You're blowing it, Dane.
I know, but he's the worst possible thing for her. It's all about Zayden. And she's like, oh, I'm not arguing that. But right now we're talking about you, honey. Like, and then she dismisses him.
Mm-hmm. So when he leaves, now remember, when we go into the bonus chapter, the next time we see Dane, he's coming back and he's out of breath.
Yeah.
So what's he going to do right now?
What was his mission?
Because the next thing that happens after this conversation between Mira, Zayden, and Violet is we see that the wards are down.
Yeah. So what's Dane's secret mission here? I can't help but think there is one.
Absolutely.
Everything that she writes means something. Uh-huh. She doesn't just write filler.
Uh-huh.
So yeah. Dane leaves minutes later, wards are down. Yeah, but we also so they're like, hey,
so then we got to get everyone out, right?
Yeah.
Mira's like,
there's an attack.
Mira's like, you need to get Violet out of here.
Yeah.
And everyone is like, I am trusting you to Zayden. Like, I am trusting you. And he's like, there's a lot of that going around.
Yeah. Yeah. And when Zayden comes back, we notice that his pack is considerably smaller than when he arrived.
Yeah.
Again, go watch our episode on the bonus chapter if you haven't read it.
We know what was in the pack.
Thing. Yeah, we break down the whole thing. But when you're reading this, you don't know.
Violet thinks he just sacrificed some stuff so that he could get there faster.
Correct. Well, I would too. Like, that's the natural.
Yeah. Why would you think that there's any other reason?
Thought process.
And then we get their second kiss, which is
arguably better.
Just as great.
I mean,
the tension that is happening in this moment.
Zayden really knows how to use every skill this man has to distract her, and what a man, because she's freaking out. She's refusing to leave Mira. So like, what's a man to do?
She's like, I have the most powerful dragon.
Yeah.
So I need to stay here.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, no, absolutely not.
And rightfully so. She doesn't even have her power yet.
Right. She doesn't. She's not manifesting the same. And they bring up like, what about Rhiannon? What about Riddick? What about Sawyer? Like, you want to leave all of your friends who are like...
She still can't even keep her seat. But also, I get it from her point of view. Like, I'm not leaving my sister. And she even says, I will hate you for this. And he knows that. He knows that. But he's going to do anything possible.
He goes, I'm all right with that.
Yeah, like, I get it. But
I can live with that.
Yeah. So, they leave. They leave Mira, and now she's freaking out.
And so now she's, the whole beginning of the next chapter, like, she hasn't slept. Like, she's waiting because she needs to find out what happened, you know? But I thought it was interesting, the epigraph of chapter 28 ends with, it's from the book of Brennan, and it says, eventually those closest to us become our enemies in some way, even if it's through well-intentioned love or apathy, or if we live long enough to become their villains.
Oh God, is that not like so telling and could apply to
so many people?
Like so many. It's wild to me. So she's freaking out, and then Zayden's like,
Zayden shows up and brings her coffee.
Yeah, he's like, hey, don't be mad. Meanwhile, she's still thinking he only kissed her. There was nothing behind the kiss.
He thinks it was just a distraction. She thinks it was just a distraction technique. Yeah. And
that there was no meaning behind it, because Violet's a teenage girl, a 20-year-old girl, however old she is, 20, 21. Yeah. And so she's still being snarky, but also Dane comes down.
Of course he does.
Of course he does. Because even though he's being pulled in a million distractions, at his core, he still obviously cares about Mira and her. They grew up together.
Yeah.
But who does she choose to have comfort her in this moment?
Not Dane.
Yeah. Except she kind of does.
I know. Yeah, that's true.
She does. And
Zayden
walks away.
But except she doesn't. She ends up going out to the meadow. Dane tries.
Dane tries, and she lets him, because he still cares. He knows Mira too. But then she goes out to the meadow.
But I think even before this, I think it's really interesting. We see an admission by Xaden that
he hasn't slept well.
That he hasn't slept well since his father died, but also his admission of when his feelings have changed about Violet. And he's like, maybe it was when I saw Orin holding a knife to your throat, or maybe it was when I realized the bruises on your necks were fingerprints, and I wanted to kill them all over again, just so I could do it slowly. Maybe it was the first time I recklessly kissed you, or when I realized that I'm fucked because I can't stop thinking about doing more than just kissing you.
Yeah.
And it's like, it feels like he didn't want to say that, but it just came out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. We also just randomly find out his birthday is in March. No date. Just March. So I say we celebrate the entire month of March. And
we see the first description of, in Violet's mind, what that bond with Xaden looks like. And it's described as a shadow of sparkling night.
Yes.
Which, why do I think that those things are always just very interesting to me?
Yep.
Mind bonds.
Yep. He, and Zane's talking about that he already knows her birthday is in March. And he talks about, I made it my business to everything there was to know about you the second I saw you. And she's like, that's not creepy. And he says, you can't know how to ruin someone without understanding them first. She's going to eventually think that that's all that this has been about. But it's not. Correct. He's loved you forever, which I think is why he also throws that in there.
Correct.
Like,
Mm-hmm. And when she finds out about Mira, I think she's not, the way I read it is that she's not going to Dane, but her knees give out and Dane's the one that immediately goes to her. Yeah. Like Xaden would, but Xaden's not going to just be outward like that at this point. We're in public too, and we're in front of professors, you know what I mean? and whatnot. So Dane takes her, but she steps out, once she comes to her senses, she steps out of his arms.
Of course.
And
Jaden's also not new here. Yeah. He knows how the politics work in this place. Yeah. He knows that they can't be seen canoodling.
Absolutely.
And
I think that when she steps out of Dane's arms, she's looking for Xaden.
Absolutely.
But he's not there. And that's when she goes in, and Darna is the one who ends up being like her comfort. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she's the soft one. She's like the big sister vibes with her, the maternal one, if you will. And I think we're going to see even more of that going forward. I think we have to.
Yeah.
We get to see a fun little teenage Andarna in the next one, but I think we're going to get to see a much more mature Andarna going on to Onyx Storm and really see Andarna start to come into her power and then build it together. But right now, they're connecting in any way that they can. They don't get to see each other as much.
Correct.
Ugh, Andarna, I love you.
But then I like this next little sequence. Violet realizes that she doesn't know that much about Xaden. And so she starts just asking him random questions.
She's like, you're weird. Why are you being weird?
He's like, what's your favorite dessert?
Chocolate cake, as we all know.
And she's trying to get to know him. And he's like, you know me well enough. Yeah. Like, I think part of him is like, I can't lie to her. Like, please, you can't be asking me. He's afraid of what she's going to ask her.
Correct.
You know?
And I don't think he wants to lie to her.
No, I don't think so either.
So he's like, oh, Lord, please stop asking me questions. Everybody's acting weird in her mind. It's just like, Dane is acting weird as fuck. Friendly one minute and different the next. Xaden is getting more secretive. And like, even Taryn feels like there's something he's not telling me. Yeah. She's picking up on everyone's being weird. She doesn't know why.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
And she says... She ends up having a conversation with Taryn at one point, and he's like, why are you pushing him? Like, why do you keep pushing him? And he's like, can you give me one not to? He cares for you. That's already enough for him. And she's like, he cares about keeping me alive. There's a difference. And he says, not for him, there isn't.
Correct.
And at this point, it's like, you know that Taryn knows the depth of what Xaden feels for Violet.
He wants Violet to figure it out. Like, hello.
Which is what I appreciate the most about Xaden and Taryn, is they both allow her the time to come to her own conclusions.
They don't just tell her what to think and feel. Like,
they
so many
let
men
her get
do.
there.
Yep. I love that you're like, Liam's dragon hates Glean.
Hates. It says,
which is telling.
Yeah. What do you think? They're talking about the war games. Yep. And Liam goes, what do you think our assignment's going to be? Day thinks we're going to be on offense. He won't stop going on about how he wants to kick Glean's ass. He pauses as if, next page, listening to his dragon. guess dragons hold grudges.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I wonder how many of these dragons secretly just hate each other.
Of course.
You know?
Of course, they've had hundreds of years together. There's got to be some
Do we
real
know
rivalry.
the full lifespan of a dragon? Like
Sure
how
don't.
old they can live? You know what I mean?
No idea.
Like, were some of these dragons around at these, you know, battles 600 years ago?
I would love to know. I would love to know more.
You know?
I would love to know more. Like, get me there. I want to see more dragons. I want to meet more dragons. I want to hear how old the oldest dragon is alive right now.
I need
How old is
more
the grandpa
backstory.
dragon? You know what I mean? Give me more. Like, does Tyrion have parents? Are they alive? You know what I mean?
Are him and Scale gonna have kids? Do
Are
they
they
have
having
kids?
kids?
Are there dragon eggs somewhere? Like, I
I have so
we
many
don't know.
questions.
We don't know. But they are about to do this first War Games, and we both really, really love the fact that Xaden made her a saddle.
Come the fuck on, though. Like, are you kidding me? But I also would like to say, I love how Tyrion doesn't give a fuck what anybody thinks about him.
Nothing.
When you're that powerful, though, it's like, say something. I
Go
dare
ahead.
you.
Go
I
ahead.
dare you to say something. What? What are you going to do? That's how powerful he is.
He's like, I'm gonna drop my shoulders so she can get on. I'm gonna wear a saddle.
I'm going to let Andarna ride
Do
me.
you know what I mean? Like, he does not care.
No, not even a little. That's how powerful he is. There's legitimately one dragon more powerful than him. And I don't even know if he's more powerful. He's just bigger.
And that's Melgren's dragon,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He's the only one bigger. That's all we know. So bring it.
So we don't know that he's more powerful. We just know
he's
that
bigger.
Okay, because at some point, we will get to it, if it's today or if it's later. At some point, it says that Taryn is the most powerful in the quadrant.
Yeah.
And he says, but not the continent.
Oh, okay. So then maybe I don't even know what his. I don't know.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know what other
But
dragons
there's
are out there.
no way
you know
you
what I
don't
mean?
see a battle between those dragons.
Absolutely. Oh,
Obviously.
absolutely. It's happening.
Yeah, you're putting them against each other.
Mhm.
And every movie I've seen, you know what happens? The underdog wins. The scrappier dragon is gonna win. Looking at you, Taryn. But really, will it come down to just Violet beating Melgren? Probably. But I feel like
I
a
also
dragon battle
really
has
like
happened.
the banter between Taryn and Xaden.
Love it, love it, love it. I love it so much.
Because like Xaden was like, oh, he didn't let me ride in the saddle to test it, and he
yes.
goes, "You can ride me when the
The
flesh
flesh
runs
runs
off
off
the
my
bones,
bones."
wing leader."
But like I feel like Xaden will ride him though.
I hope so.
I think they'll be able to ride each other's dragons. I feel like we're gonna see a scene where they're jumping from dragon to dragon. Like the two of them have 3 dragons, and I feel like we're gonna see it. I feel it. It's
Doesn't that
cinematic,
sound
right?
awesome?
Don't
Oh
forget,
my
this is gonna be a
God.
show. We have to have those cinematic moments,
Oh
and I
yeah,
think it's gonna happen.
definitely.
Give it to me, Rebecca. It's gonna. Oh, but I just love it. He's like, you could have made this so much fucking easier on me, and he's like, no,
Mm-mm.
you will never touch me or ride me. Like it's just.
They're so mean to each other, and it's so funny.
And the only reason Taryn did this was for Violet. You know he hated every moment, and how many fittings he had to have, how many things they had to go through before they found one that worked.
Oh my god.
And Adarna's probably like, just happy to be here.
Oh my god. And then, so finally they're like taking flight. And of course, it's at this moment that Violet's signet decides to manifest.
Of course. And she's like, oh shit, it's actually going to take over me. It's going to burn me out. She thinks that this is where she's going to die. That it's going to, because she hasn't wielded it yet, it's going to consume her.
Like,
and
I'm
going to
burn up. This is it. Now, I do have a question though, because there is one point that she's saying all this power is flooding her. Without grounding in my archives, power surges in my veins, blah, blah, blah. Taryn flares his wings, catching air and pulling out of the dive. And he says, you're going to have to work on those shoulder muscles, Silver One. We'll practice this week. But then it says, leaning as far as I can out of the saddle, I see Andarna clutched in Taryn's claw as we level out and glide along the valley floor. And Andarna says, thanks, I've got it now. So did he mean to say Golden One? Like, whose shoulders? Because if he's like grabbing Andarna and she's like, thanks, I got it now.
I don't know.
Right? I was like, her shoulders aren't mentioned anywhere here.
Yeah.
What do we
I
mean?
Maybe.
I don't know. So
Maybe.
sorry, that just my brain was like,
God.
that doesn't make sense.
I wonder. I mean, but the gold and silver can get really a little like.
Yeah, maybe he just
Yeah.
a lot going on. You know.
Who knows? Okay. So we're up. We're flying.
We're flying, and
We're
then
flying.
we see the egg, and Violet tells Xaden where the egg is. He's on his way, but then we see Liam and Jack's dragon
I cannot.
in a battle,
I cannot.
and it's just at this moment that I think, like, I can't believe she made us go through Liam
I get so mad.
almost dying multiple times.
I get so mad.
So Jack is over here freaking jumping onto
With like the most sadistic grin.
Liam's dragon
Yes.
and stabbing him.
I can't.
And then we see Liam falling. And it's at this point that Violet's like, we're not going to make it. Like, there's no way we're going to make it.
They're trying. And she says, catch him. I demand. Afraid we won't make it. And guess what happens? Time fucking stops.
And Darna's like, do it. Focus on you and Taryn.
Because you both have to keep moving. And oh my God, this moment gives me actual chills. Obviously, she gets to Liam in time.
And then she has this moment when her power fully comes in and she says, I am the sky and the power of every storm that has ever been.
Chills.
I am infinite. A scream rips from my throat just as lightning splits the sky with a terrifying crack of thunder. And it blasts where Jack was. He falls down the mountainside in an avalanche. And in that moment, she's like, I killed him.
Yeah.
And Taryn goes, lightning wielder.
Boom. Boom. Like, oh, like I have actual chills. So it takes 72% of the way to the book for us to figure out what her signet is.
Mm-hmm.
But when she first gets it, the first thing she does is avenge her friend.
Uh-huh.
Ooh! Because at her core, what is Violet? I don't know, but I think we're seeing it.
I am infinite.
I am infinite, you guys.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that to me
Feels
is
like
such
a god.
it feels like there is an unlimited amount of power.
Unlimited. Yes. Like it feels, I don't
Together
know,
they are
more than
unlimited.
human.
It does.
Feels like she might be a little bit of something else.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
Like,
many
it's
humans
like in
that
that
say,
moment, I
"I'm
almost
infinite."
feel like her eyes like turn to look like Storm from X-Men.
Absolutely,
You know what I mean?
and you can
it's
see
just like,
that. Yes, the clouds
Uh-huh,
rolling
uh-huh,
in, and then the
uh-huh.
lightning.
uh-huh.
That's the
Like,
only.
she
reference
doesn't
I
look
have.
human in that moment.
No, but of course that's our reference
Yeah,
because
of
who else
course.
is like
Right.
a lightning wielder?
Perfect.
Yeah, it's amazing.
With silver hair.
It's all
It's
all
the
very
crossover
fitting.
we all need. It.
It is the moment. This is what I need. But also, she's not thrilled about killing Jack.
She's not doing well.
Not doing okay.
No.
She is sick to her stomach.
And the reactions between Xaden and Dane
Night and day.
in this, and Dane is like, oh my god, he's like, you don't have to use this power.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. And Zane's like, shut the fuck up. What are you doing?
He's like, and I don't like that Dane goes, Violet, that was you with the lightning strike? Like, immediately, it's as if he
What did you
couldn't
think
believe.
her power? Like, we all knew she was gonna get a powerful signet. Why are you shocked?
And if you don't want to use that power again, you don't have to.
You don't have to. No one's gonna make you. And Zane's like, don't tell her that. Like, what are you doing? Coddling her isn't gonna make anything better. Oh, but I also love that Taryn has a protective fatherly moment here where he shields her so no one has to see her throwing up.
Mm-hmm.
And at first she thinks it's Zayn because it gets really dark. But it's not. It's Taryn. Because their bond is so strong.
Mm-hmm. And in that moment, Xaden like pushes Dane away and says, you killed Barlow.
Yep.
And he goes, lightning, that's your signet, isn't it?
Yep. He's like, that's what I thought.
I thought so, but I wasn't sure. And he really, in that moment, he's like, the world's a better place without Barlow in it. We both know that.
Mm-hmm.
Do I wish I'd been the one to end his miserable life?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what you did will save others. He was nothing more than a bully. I'm glad he's dead. I'm glad you killed him.
And Darna's like, you saved your friend's life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, everyone's like trying to make her feel better except Dane.
And he says, whatever you did is what kept Liam alive.
Yeah, and he's important to me. Like,
and he knows, and the thing is, like, Xaden does a very good job in this moment. He knows how awful she feels. And, like, later we see him comfort her behind the scenes and be like, it's okay that you're not okay with this.
Yeah.
But in that moment, he knows that Violet doesn't want to be seen as vulnerable.
Correct.
So he does his best to distract her and have her focus on the good that came out of what she just did.
It doesn't need to be used for bad. And then he just goes off on Dane. He's like, stop treating her like a child. She's a full-grown woman. She's a writer. At least have the decency to give her the truth.
Stop fucking coddling her.
Yep.
You know?
And Dane's like, you just want her to be like you. Oh, God. A cold-blooded killer. Interesting that Dane thinks that Xaden's a cold-blooded killer. Because I bet Xaden killed some people first year to, like, survive.
I wonder.
Because
you know
let's not forget, Xaden's first year as a writer was the first year any of them came into the quadrant.
Yeah.
So I'm sure everyone was after him. Let's not forget who his dad is. Like, I'm sure everyone, I bet he had to kill so many people. Give me that novella, by the way. Like, give me a little first year Xaden.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here we are. Which is going to lead us to another great scene.
Mm-hmm.
Where Xaden's going to now come talk to Violet, and he's gonna have his softer side and tell her, okay, now you can be real. Like, we can be real in here. Out there, we don't show anybody. But oh God, this scene, I don't even know how to talk about it without turning red.
Well, right before that happens, I do have something highlighted, and it says, you know, about Liam cheating death twice today. And she says, but it wasn't Liam who cheated death, it was me. And I can't help but wonder if somewhere, on some plane of existence, Malik sits on his throne, angry that I stole his soul from his grasp.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, if Malik's her dad, maybe he doesn't care.
I'm just saying, maybe Malik's the one that gave you that little burst of infinite power right there. You know?
So
maybe he's actually sitting on his throne proud.
But, like, I think 1,000%, even if Violet is not, oh God, say she's not anything, I think we absolutely have to see a scene where Violet and Malik are in conversation, have some kind of communication.
Even if it's in a dream.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You can't convince me at this point in time that there's not something non-human about her, whether it's some type of dragon or god. Absolutely. There's something non-human about her, and until I read otherwise, this is what I believe.
Mm-hmm. And so then we go to her room. She's throwing daggers. It's
hot as hell in Zane's mind. Hot as hell.
Which she's not even looking, and she's throwing a dagger and hitting the thing. Of course it is. Oh my God.
Of course it is.
And so she thinks that it's, you know, someone knocks on her door, and she's like, it's probably Liam, but then she's like, no, it can't be Liam, so it's probably Rhiannon, and then it's Xaden, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes to check and make sure she's okay.
Yeah.
You know, and
he's not there for anything else besides to check in on her.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that something else doesn't happen, but
no.
But she's like, shouldn't you be out there like celebrating? And he's like, we want a battle, not a war. I just figured you might still be upset. And
so before they get into it, okay, they're having a conversation. Dane told me that this place strips away the niceties to reveal who someone really is. Not going to argue there. And I just kept thinking that when I was younger, I asked my dad what would happen if I wanted to be a writer like Mom or Brennan. And he told me that I wasn't like them, that my path was different.
It makes you wonder, what did your dad know? What did your dad know about you?
And how many conversations did she have that were laced with deeper meaning that she doesn't realize?
I just imagine they're out there like doing book stuff, and they're having like, you know, conversations all the time where she never talked to her mom.
Yeah.
Ever.
No, her mom pretended she didn't exist for much of the time.
Yeah. And you know, she talks about how all this time she wished that she just really kind of thought she'd be like Brennan, that she would have this, you know, power that would help people and not kill people. And you know, Zayden does a really good job of like pumping her up, making her feel better, and talking about like that she's never been like any other writer, and it's probably because she never wanted to be here, and so her power is going to be different because she's coming from a different place. And it's the sweetest little thing ever. I can't it's just this, I literally have almost every line highlighted because I'm like, this is all, it's all important. It's all important. But he talks about like, you get to be angry that you killed a man. You get to be angry that a man tried to kill your friend. You get to feel however you want within these walls. And he's like so close. And he's like, but not outside them. We're writers. So you do whatever you need. You want to yell at me? You want to do it. You want to hit me? Do it. Like, I can take anything. Like,
hitting
come
him
on.
is the last thing I want to do.
And so she's like, anything? All right. And so she kisses him. And he does not see this coming, which is so great because we know that he can feel. We know that he can feel intentions, and he doesn't even know that this is coming. His body goes rigid. He's shook to his core, and then but only for a second.
You know, and he's like, "This isn't what you want," and she's like, "It's exactly what I want."
Yeah. What do you?
And then I love. She's like, "Are you suggesting someone else?" And he just goes, "Fuck no."
No.
Absolutely not.
No. And this is like. What an intense scene this is, because before they've even gotten to the deed, they are all over each other. It is so one of the best scenes. Like, we've slowly built up to this. We are 74% in. This is like such a nice
this point
slow
you go,
burn.
Oh, she's a romance writer.
Yeah, this is where you see it.
Oh, she's shining here.
This is, we've been having the banter, we've been leading up, we've had a kiss here, a kiss there that are also very like nice kisses. And now we don't even touch a bed. We don't even touch a bed. We are breaking everything.
We actually broke everything else in the room except the bed.
Except the bed. And it is
we're setting curtains on fire.
And
like
he's still like, you'll
control.
hate me in the morning. Like, he's just like, no, you're gonna hate me. You don't really want this. Yes, I do. And he's like, and she's like, unless you don't want me. And he's like, I always fucking want you. He says,
that's the problem.
And he's like, I'm trying to do the honorable thing and not take advantage of you after a shitty day. She's like, no, babe, take advantage. Like, I want this.
That's what I'm asking for.
And she notes that he only says her name when it's just the two of them. When all the walls and pretenses fall away, and God's if I don't want to hear it again and again, she says, but he does always say violence when they're around people, but it's Violet when it's just the two of them.
I love a couple times he calls her Vi. And I'm like, why is that even better?
It's even cuter when he calls her Vi. He says, okay, I'd like to know that he says, you're going to be the death of me, Violet. And this is, we hear this, and after this point, we hear it like 4 more times. He says it so many times after this scene that it's like, okay, I get it. I get it, but you're not going to die for goodsies. You're going to come back. You're going to be resurrected. You're going to be healed. I get it. I get it. We get it. You're foreshadowing the fact that at some point you're going to technically die. Malik's going to take you, hold you prisoner. Something's going to happen where you're going to be in death's grip. Yeah. I get it. We get it. You're really hitting it home. But stop saying it because my heart stops every time now.
I know. It becomes, every time you read it,
it's just like how now I only see Dane touching her.
Uh-huh.
But the first time I was like, oh, okay. But now it's all like, now when he says it, it's all I see. All I see. Her power, she can't control her power. Girls.
He can't either.
No.
There's lightning out the window. The curtains are on fire.
Yep.
He, after the whole thing is done, he's like, I've never lost control.
I've never lost control. Also, his power instinctively knows that it's got to put this out. Like the shadows are working overtime right now. Like, they're doing their duty as well. They're like, oh shit, we got to put this out. We got to put that out. It's the best scene. Yo, just read it over and over again. I remember thinking this is so good, but reading it again, I'm like, God damn. It's like Real good.
So
Then
that
we
happens, but
get-
then we get like a lot of
Then
information
we
at the
get
end of this
a
chapter.
lot of information because as in normal like life, after you've had sex, you talk.
Yeah.
And shit comes out.
In the cuddling.
And she's like, hey. She's noticing some marks.
So these 107 scars that are on your back.
Mm-hmm. The number makes my stomach lurch, and then my hand pauses. 107. That's the number that Liam mentioned, which is like interesting that she didn't, know that number until Liam said it.
Yeah.
And she says, that's how many kids are under the age of the majority carry the rebellion relic. And he says, yeah. And she just asks, like,
He
what
took
happened?
personal responsibility for the loyalty of the 107 kids of the rebellion leaders left behind.
I
And
saw an
so-
opportunity to make a deal, and I
He
took
chose
it.
the chance of death over the certainty.
Yep.
So if any of them,
They are
Train
all
of
tied to
R.
him. Any of them.
then he forfeits his life.
Yes. And that's like another way that we see how important his dad was and what kind of man he raised Zayden to be. Nothing can make me hate you or your dad at this point.
No.
It's an intense conversation that they go on to have. This is a big moment for Zayden. Like a big moment.
Yeah.
She might be one of the only people outside of the rebellion kids that know this. Obviously her mom knows it.
Yeah.
This is news.
And he says at the end of all this, don't fall for me, Violet.
Don't fall for me. Okay. Okay. But then what do? She's like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna fall for you. But then she wakes up to you leaving freaking violets, a jar of violets. Like, how is she not supposed to fall for you? Come on. You left and went to pick flowers for her.
My God.
Like, anyone would fall for you, Zayden. Oh, God, I love him so much.
I know. And then she gets up and she assumes that, like, Liam's going to be at the door again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Professor Carr. And he's like, we have work to do.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I have archives duty. And he's like, you're off archives duty. Lightning and paper don't mix well. And I'm like, oh my God, he's such an asshole. Like, he's right, okay?
He's so right. And
He's
she
right,
knows
but,
it.
like, he's such an asshole.
He's such an ass. So they're gonna go train.
Obviously, we find out he has an orange dagger tail.
Of course he does. And he's just so shitty. But he says, it's always intriguing to me how nature finds the balance. And she says, I'm not sure what you mean. He says this kind of power is found in one, so would you not call yourself fragile? And she says, I am who I am. I love her so freaking much. But he just, he talks about like how this power is so like big and, she's not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the typical way that a man talks down
Correct.
to a female that just, it enrages me. It enrages
And
me.
this is the moment where he says, your dragon doesn't trust me. And considering he's the most powerful of them in the quadrant at the moment, and Taryn goes, but not the continent.
And this is also where I wanted to point out that, she tells him the truth. Like, yo, I saw what you did.
Yeah,
to
like,
the other kid. It freaks
I'll
me
never
out.
understand why mind speaking is a death
And
sentence.
he says, because knowledge is power, and as a general's daughter, you should know that. We can't have someone walking around with unfettered access to classified material. That's a security risk. And she says, and yet Dane is living. That's a big deal. And it makes me wonder, does Dane get punished for that later?
And that's what Taryn says, is because Atos will be useful to them as long as they can keep him under their control.
Like, he's not supposed to tell anybody about his power. And Violet just let it slip.
Yeah.
That she knows. And it makes me wonder how they're going to use Dane. What happens in Dane's. Like, give me Dane's POV here. Because
and he says his power is also limited to touch, so it's more controllable.
Mm-hmm.
But,
it's all about control with Dane.
Yeah. It just really goes to show, I think Dane really is just a pawn right now.
Absolutely. And I can't help but wonder what he's going through. I bet it's actual
inner
torture.
turmoil.
I bet they're using everything they can to control him.
Yeah.
And it hurts my heart a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, it kind of reminds me of Caltaine in Throne of
Mm-hmm.
Glass. Like, what are they making him do?
Mm-hmm.
Of course he's acting weird. It all kind of makes sense. starts to make more sense now. And into Iron Flame, I cannot wait to kind of read into Dane's story a little bit more, like with different
I want to see how much,
glasses.
if I still soften to him the same way that I think I will. You know what I mean?
I think I already am, even now, knowing what happens, that I'm like, you know, if we got his POV, I wonder how very differently we'd be looking at him.
Correct.
But yeah.
And this chapter has a lot of the like big quotes that
Big
people like
quotes.
put on stickers and stuff.
Yes.
Because she doesn't know how she's going to make lightning happen again.
She's like, you want me to just do it?
And so Taryn's like, should I get the wing leader? And he's hilarious. And so she basically, I feel like she like touches on that bond and it like pings Xaden.
Yes.
Which is very cool.
And Xaden's saying, like, okay, so they're training. And he says, get stronger in wielding and you'll be able to do it too. There's nowhere in existence you could go that I wouldn't find you, Violence.
Nowhere
the promise should be a threat, but it's not. Nowhere in existence. I think we're about to test that.
Absolutely.
Nowhere in existence.
Absolutely.
Not another world. Not an underworld. Not like we're gonna find out.
And then he proceeds to send her all the visuals of
from
last night.
From his point of view.
From his
so
POV.
she's seeing herself from like what he saw. Oh my god.
Needless to say, she makes lightning strike.
She sure does. I have to be real. I think that if I saw myself, I'd be like, oh my god, is that what I look like? No. No, this did the opposite. Make it stop. But not for Violet, because she's Violet.
It works for Violet.
Works for Violet.
Works for her.
Carr just, takes credit for it. And thinks, I told you. The last lightning wielder
was
said
also really warm. Oh, please.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. And,
so that's the end of
that's
that.
that.
The end of that.
Ooh,
oh, boy.
boy.
A lot happened in there.
I know, because we're going to pick up on July 1st. Right after that, which is the anniversary of the battle. So we're 77% through.
Yep.
It's wild how close we are. Full steam ahead. Wow.
So I hope you continue to catch up with us.
Yeah.
And we have another hour here for you to...
Yo, there's just too much. Can you imagine how long the Iron Flame ones are going to be? I'm so sorry.
My God.
I'm so sorry. We're going to have to split them into like part 1, part 2.
God, I'm telling you.
But anyways, let us know your thoughts per usual, and we're just like full steaming ahead. So hopefully you can get through this like back half of December with us, and then we get to start the new year with Iron Flame.
I'm actually very excited.
I can't wait. I literally can't wait. All right. Well, we will see you next week. Bye. Bye.